If you support Russia, you're going to hell. Hello and welcome to episode number 78 of Unrelenting. It's like an old shellac disc. Before they went to vinyl, they were 78s.
I had some 78s.
Yeah, I still do. I mean, I don't know if I have anything I can play them on. They require special apparatus. You can't just throw them on the same turntable that 45s and 33s use. Some people don't know that.
You can.
Well, you can. It's not going to be a good experience.
You used to be able to. They were universal.
Yeah, well, there was a... on the very old console turntable that my parents still have, there is a little switch that will flip from one stylus to the other. So, because
that's what I remember having.
The good old days.
You flip the stylus and it flipped the speed lever from 33 to 45 to 78.
And it was all magical.
Not really.
Darren O'Neill, and I heard you with that show you did with Bemrose. You're like, I mean, I always thought it was Neftuliev, but you're just like, I'm Gene Neftuliev. It was like you did it in like one syllable. I don't understand. There's a lot of letters, and you did it in like one syllable.
I mean, you should see my signature.
It's one letter.
Pretty much. It's just the letter N with the squiggle.
That's all you need. You learned from the baseball players. Need.
Yes. I was meant to be a doctor, you know.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, you do self-medicate a lot.
I do. I do indeed.
You're like, what else could I take? Yeah. What could I do? Will this work?
There we go. People playing bingo, you can check off the medical talk right on that bingo card. It's right up front.
They're going to talk about medical stuff.
That's right.
Hey, I was already on the bike. I liked that. I was sitting there and I finished with the bike and I was getting myself a little bit of water and the thing popped up on my my Apple Watch. And it's like, oh, you've already met your move and exercise goals for the day. I'm like, so now I don't got to do nothing.
Holy shit. How low are your goals?
Well, they're still set at the basic, which is a half hour for each. And I do an hour on the bike. So I just blow right on. I do need to
see my watch self-adjusts those. So I remember when I went on vacation to Mexico and I had which reminds me, I got to call and book my next trip. And I had a fairly lengthy walk from my cabana out to the area where they do food. And
so I were exercising?
No, I was exercising. I mean, it was uphill both ways, but I had to walk like it's probably around a quarter mile. It was damn on the other side of the resort. So it's quite a ways. And I did cheat a couple days. Well,
you had somebody carry
not
you?
Really. Yeah, exactly. No, I got room service, but which is essentially the same thing. But the rest of the time I walked. And after a few days, my watch decided that my minimum exercise requirements had gone up because clearly I was meeting them every single day. So it automatically starts to bump that up.
That would make sense.
It does. It does make sense. It's sort of like it adjusts to your new normal and then still keeps you wanting to go do more exercise.
Well, that's the idea, is to continue to increase. Although there has to be a point. Otherwise, it'd be like, you should be exercising 24 hours a day. Why aren't you? It's like, because I would die.
Well, clearly I've never met that point. So in no danger of it either.
No. Now, just been playing. People will be like, why is Gene starting to sound different? Been playing with a little EQ. I think I cleared you up nicely now.
Okay. Well, it only took a year. That's good.
I hate playing with the EQ beforehand. I always just wait to the end result. But I thought I would try this now. Just like this is the first time I've been using now the Shure SM7B, Bandrew's favorite microphone.
I don't like your low end on this mic, dude.
It does sound different. The high end, I think, is better. That's, I think, because I've got the high end filter, not the high end filter, the boost. I have the high end accentuation on. which I think is why I was trying to do the low end with the big bottom, trying to give myself a little more bottom.
The RE20 has a better low end.
I think it does. It's also a bigger microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Shure gives you a little bit better clarity with a windscreen on it. But to be fair, when you talk right into this thing, you can still pop some peas if you talk right into it. So, which is why everybody that uses this on the YouTubes and mics themselves incorrectly drives me nuts.
Well, everybody uses this on the YouTubes because they saw somebody using it on the YouTubes.
Yeah, Joe Rogan,
and they want to look professional.
Yeah,
99.9% of the people on YouTubes, including people that should know better, don't understand audio.
This is true. They barely understand video.
And that goes double for anyone that's ever had a professional job in broadcasting. Oh my God, do they not know audio?
Well, because somebody else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
We figured that one out during COVID when all of the stars of the television went home and were doing things from their house. And it was like, hey, everybody, how you doing today? Like, no, you're not. No, it doesn't work that way. It's all right. So what's been going on in Austin? Is it nice and warm there?
Bingo card. You can check off the talking about audio stuff.
Yeah, we got audio. We got health. Do we talk about Russian collusion?
And what's that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it warm in Austin? It's getting warm here, and people are like, "Oh my God!"
I tried to not know. I get outside as little as I can.
See how high you just go by how high the electric bill is when. Although for you, you keep it fairly balmy inside.
I don't know if balmy is the word. I keep it comfortable for my reptiles,
which we figured was 76 or something,
77-ish.
Which is what the government wants you to set it at. You are just such a sheeple.
I really am. I know. It's just like I should get one of those hats.
I'm just glad I have
makes total sense.
That we put the new air conditioner in when we're having like 3 days in a row of 95-degree heat. And last night at like 11 o'clock, it was still 82 degrees. It's like, yeah, that would not be cooling down at night.
That's every single day in Texas.
I know.
But that's one thing is, it's a little better in Austin than it was in Dallas, but Dallas was a shock for me when I moved there because starting with the late spring and all the way through the end of fall, it doesn't cool down at night.
You're like, what is this?
It might be like 96, 98, a little over 100 during the day, but then it's like 88 all night long. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to it cooling off at night. And it doesn't matter whether you lived in, over by the water, like in California, or you lived over by the water in Minnesota, or over by the water in Chicago, wherever, like at night, you get a nice cool breeze.
Right. You get some respite from the heat.
Dallas does not have that. Now, Austin has just a little bit of that. It gets a little cooler. It's still too warm. I don't think it dips below 75 at night. So your best cool temperature is basically room temperature. But in Dallas, it was significantly above room temperature, and you'd still need to have the AC running on full blast all night long.
It's the way I like it. I'm glad we have the new condenser put in outside because this would not be the time to be without the AC.
No, that would be miserable. Unless you're a reptile.
Yes, and then they're like, this is perfect. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I laugh when the government says, no, 78. Then at night, turned it up to 82. I'm like, I would not sleep if it was 82 degrees.
You can't sleep at 82, though.
I like it about 65 degrees to sleep. That's about perfect.
That's too damn cold, man.
No, I love the cold.
Oh, my God. That's so cold.
Come on.
I drop it down to, I've got, one of those thermostat things that adjusts all throughout the day.
Yeah, and you let the government adjust it when they need to.
No, I turned that off. I did for a little while because they bribed me with the $100 payment. And then I realized they're insane because they kept it 83 degrees in the house.
Oh, that's more than cool enough. Nothing to worry about.
That may be fine for the snakes, but it's not good for me.
The snakes are perking up and you're like, that don't feel so hot.
Uh-huh.
What is your CO2 level, though? That's the real question on what's...
It's been hovering around 460.
You got to do all these things. You want to live 1,000 years.
That's true. Yes. So no way in hell I'm going to make it that long. But, my plants like it.
That's true. And I love the stories.
I've got a recent carrot that I took out of the fridge and stuck into the indoor planter that's now growing nicely.
You decided to grow some carrots.
Well, I tend to do that with a lot of food instead of throwing it away.
Or eating it?
I theoretically, I've got potatoes and carrots now growing indoors.
You are one of these prepper guys, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I will be fine when they drop the nukes, except I don't have anything to protect me from the nuke.
Oh, but wait, I have this poncho.
There's more. Yes. If I put the poncho on, I will be protected from radioactive waves in the air.
That's true.
And you will look really good when they find your dead corpse. Of course, you could just be vaporized. So there's that.
Yeah, I don't think Austin's target number 1, but it is probably up there in the top 10.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is safe unless you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, and the problem with being in the middle of nowhere, like Kansas State or something, is that's where our nukes are. So that's targeted as well.
Right. You got to have you got to buy a little room in NORAD down in the mountain, and then you're okay.
In Cheyenne, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think I was looking at this. I think South America is definitely the place to be.
Why are all the people then coming here from those areas? And you're like, let's go there.
Because they don't realize how close we are to nuclear war.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have stayed down there.
It is a very strange political climate that we are living in today. And I blame the internet because everybody sees all the stupid shit on the internet.
Uh-huh.
And everything gets amplified immediately.
Well, that and then our media is that I remember as a youngster, a wee lad, reading about yellow journalism.
Right.
And thinking, that is so ridiculous. How did people not see through that stuff? And how did companies make enough money to stay afloat being journalistic enterprises doing yellow journalism? Well, I got my answer, didn't I?
Yeah, now you learn propaganda pays.
You're like, holy shit, they made more money back then, didn't they? Like there was so many more newspapers back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean the late 1800s, early 1900s. Because it was the newspaper equivalent of the internet.
Yeah, that would be true.
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry all of a sudden could afford to write stuff, take it down to the press, and then have it published on pamphlets and start distributing them. And then next thing you know, they're selling ads for the local Ace Hardware.
Well, and you had to have some kind of money to be able to spread what you wanted to spread. If you were some schmuck with no money, you weren't going to get a voice. At the very start.
My point is you would get a voice because the technology had gotten so cheap. The printing press had become something that was so damn cheap that every little tiny podunk town now had a printing press shop.
Well, that's true. They needed to have their papers in the 1800s.
And so anybody could, and that's the other thing is the paper industry, the lumber industry, I should say, started churning out paper, which became super cheap. Yeah, paper was a premium in the 1700s. It was expensive to get paper. And printing presses, boy, you probably had just a handful per state. I'm exaggerating, guys. But by the late 1800s, every Tom, Dick, and Harry could afford to put together effectively what we would call now a newsletter, which became
pamphlets.
Which would become a newspaper.
And there were always the newspapers that were a little bit off center, as you said, maybe not outright yellow
like
journalism.
Today.
Now with
New York Times, Washington Post, all those.
But at that point, we still had some people who took the job of trying to gather and report news accurately and honestly, seriously. And we've lost that entirely. Almost.
Yeah. I think so. I think we've lost it from newspapers for sure. I think it certainly is transitioning. I see guys like Tucker on X.com and
good old X.
And I wish I still had my X.com credit card.
So you'd have been a trailblazer.
Well, no, I had one back then. I was a trailblazer. I was one of the people that
now you could probably sell that little piece of plastic
right. That's
for thousands
what
of
I was getting to. That's what I was getting to is I wish I still had it instead of throwing it away because I probably could sell it on eBay at this point.
Like be in on the ground floor.
I thought it was a great idea. This was been late 90s, I think, is when X.com came out, and it was the pre-PayPal. It was the hey, have a virtual bank, not a physical bank, and everything's cheaper, and you can give other X members money and stuff. It was a great idea. They had a physical card, and then so that was before, I guess, Elon joined up with God, what's the other guy's name?
Was it Sergey or something? Was that
no. The gay guy. What's his name?
Good old gay guy.
The gay guy, the gay conservative dude. More libertarian, but I forget his name. Anyway, so Elon had his whole idea with X.com, and that guy owned PayPal, and then they joined forces, combined the companies, and became the dominant method of paying for eBay products, and eventually for all kinds of other things.
Yeah, and they were for years and years until eBay finally decided they wanted to make the money.
Yeah. And they tried, and they couldn't, and eventually they just bought them.
And well, now eBay is back not using PayPal, so.
Wait, what?
You didn't know? Well, I get paid now directly into my checking account. eBay changed the whole way they do payments.
Really?
Yeah. They finally split away from the everything is PayPal and which I understand when it's a third-party company. They're like, well, wait, we could just take payment and then we'll pay you. And it's one of these things where if you want to pay a higher percentage or something, you can get paid instantly. Otherwise, eBay does a thing like, they pay you weekly or something like that. And for a long time, they didn't even have the option if you wanted to keep that money in an eBay account, which a lot of people that sell crap on eBay want to buy crap on eBay. And I think eBay realized they were doing a disservice by converting that cash that people were making by selling things on eBay and sending it to their bank account when people would have been more than happy to go, no, I'll just let it sit with you.
Does eBay not own PayPal anymore? Because they bought them in 2002.
I think it's gone again, I believe. I believe that separated yet again.
Really?
Because it is not the number one way that eBay wants people to pay now.
That is weird.
The whole payment of money going across the internet is a very interesting thing to watch from the original concept of, hey, money should be free, when we're right back to, well, you could be canceled for sending money to the wrong place, or we don't like what you said on your Facebook post, so we're not going to let you have a PayPal account.
Yeah, that is a very strange kind of thing. And there's I think this is from an Andrew Tate video that I watched, which I think he's quite right on, talking about the idea that the difference between cash and PayPal, and it would include all the crypto shit as well. Well, it depends. I guess it depends on the cryptos, to put an asterisk next to crypto. But the basic idea is, when you use cash, the reason that cash was so powerful is because it doesn't require an intermediary. It doesn't require a third party. The third party is the guarantor of the cash, which would historically be backed by gold, and it was the government of the place that you're in, whether it's a state government or a federal government, or whatever country. Somebody is backing up that cash with gold enough that they don't need to be part of the transaction. And you're able to have direct transactions with somebody else, which means if 10 people do business with each other, so let's say, a guy that sells manure gets paid by the farmer, who then sells the plants, the carrots that he grows, to the grocer, who then sells that same stuff to a chef in a restaurant, who then sells the stuff that he makes then prepares to. It could be the same guy that originally sold the manure, right? So you've got all these transactions happening, and full value is being transacted each time. So cash doesn't take a piece of the action.
Right. Yeah, nobody's getting a percentage.
Right. Where in today's world, with a huge, vast majority of transactions happening electronically, there is a private intermediary, and they take anywhere between 1% and 4% of every transaction, which means after 12 transactions, that money is gone. The entirety of what that first person got paid has now been absorbed by the intermediary.
Right. The business to be in is to be the intermediary.
Absolutely. Having your own bank is the surest way of being a billionaire.
Yeah, because no matter what the commerce is, you're getting a piece.
You're getting a piece multiple times a day, literally off of the same carrot that manure that was ended up in a long line of transactions to being served as food on the table to the same person. Like, that full value doesn't get preserved. It doesn't stay in the population. It goes, all of it, through transaction fees to the intermediary. So banks are evil in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of pros to when it comes to being able to borrow money that you haven't yet made, and then having somebody that has enough money to loan you to be able to do that. So I'm not saying that there's no good out of banks, but if you think of it in a very macro sense, the bank is just siphoning off every transaction at a time a piece of all the money in the country. And eventually what you end up with is banks that are too big to fail, and a population that feels like there's no more middle class because everybody's poor. And only poor people use cash.
And there's a reason for that, because the rich folk, they get their points, baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know when the last
points
time,
are not the same, though.
No, I understand. But it's interesting because that's what convinces the person spending the cash to use a credit card. There's a few different things that are in why wouldn't I? One, a lot of times you'll get an extended warranty on some things.
Mm-hmm.
You have recourse. So if you get home and you unwrap your package and realize it inside the box wasn't what you had purchased, you can complain to the credit card company, and you may have protection, where if you paid cash, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But lately, a lot of people use it strictly for the percentage that they're getting back, and different credit cards. I mean, it's even at 1%, that adds up, just like the bank fees. When your credit card goes, hey, we'll give you 1% to 3% back. And I've seen ones that, hey, for groceries, the American Express that we buy our groceries on is always 3%. And they were trying to get me on hey, well, if you go to the American Express where you pay us a couple $100 a year to have the card, it's the next level up. Well, then you get 6% back on your groceries. And I'm like, well, I spend a lot on groceries, and you do the math and you figure out where that's worth it. But the reason then, if you walk into the grocery store, why would I pay in cash when I'm getting 3 to 6% back on a credit card? So of course I'm using the credit card.
Well, you are, but the thing you got to remember is that money doesn't come out of nothing, which means that because you're getting 1% 5% back,
they're charging the grocery store.
They're charging literally everybody across the board an extra 5-6%.
Right.
So every one of your groceries is more expensive by at least 5%.
But I figure screw the other guy. I'm getting the discount.
But your discount is less than the increase in price that the grocery store has to put in.
I know, but they won't give me a cash discount, which I think is insane.
But if you have a store that does not use credit cards, cash only, then, which is very rare these days,
a few restaurants,
it is generally cheaper. In fact, I remember for many years, gas stations in the U.S. had a cash discount. I think most of them don't anymore. Now they're just screwing the guys paying with cash by charging them the same fees as they would to the credit card people. But for many years, they had like a 4% discount if you pay cash.
Well, there is one of the pubs here started doing, if you pay with a credit card, there's
British? One of the pubs.
One of the pubs. Well, it's a, restaurant bar kind of a thing. It's definitely not a fancy restaurant. It's not fully a bar. So it's kind of a pub. That's a barish place with food, isn't it? Isn't that how you would consider a pub? But they do, if you do with a credit card payment, they're charging an extra 3%. And a lot of people got pissed off. And I'm like, well, why? Because you still have the opportunity. And I think they did it the wrong way, although I don't know what the legalities are at this point. If you can say you're getting a discount to pay cash, because that would frame it a lot better. People go, oh, discount, that's great. Rather than you're getting an extra fee if you use a credit card. Same thing, but the wording makes people mad. Like, why should I have to pay more? It's like, well, because you not understand every time you pay with a credit card, the credit card is charging us 3%.
Yeah. And that, like I've run into this before when I've had clients want to pay credit card and use a card to pay. I'm like, well, okay, but I'm going to charge you 10% more.
Yeah. Here's your new price. And they don't like that.
No, they're like, oh, well, because then they realize it's like, oh, well, shit, it'd be cheaper for me just to get money from the credit card and then pay him cash. Like, yeah, exactly.
That's how it works.
And frankly, if you don't have the money to pay me, then I may not want to work with you anyway.
There was a guy that was a genius, and I'm surprised more people did not pull this off. And I don't know if we talked about this because I heard this story maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. But back when the United States Mint would sell, I don't remember if it was the gold dollars or was one of those like the presidential dollar coins. Well, they would sell them to you at cost with free shipping. So if you bought $1,000 worth of coins, they were $1,000. There was no shipping. There was no tax. So this guy would just buy it on his credit card and then take the coins to his bank and convert it back into cash,
and pay the credit card.
Right. So he racked up millions of points. And,
that's awesome. That's a good scam.
I'm like, why didn't I figure that one out? Guy had a lot of frequent flyer miles.
That is and it's not just miles. I mean, like you said, a lot of cards just give instant money back.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot to do for 1% back, but it's really no work if you're just going to the bank.
It's a numbers game.
Yes.
Right? If your credit card has a $20,000 limit,
you buy
20,000 and you get 20 grand worth of coins a month.
Yeah.
It'd be 240. Yeah. $250,000 worth over the course of a year. And you're getting, at least a couple of percent back of that. That's sizable.
It's like a full-time job for some people.
No, it's not. Well, oh yeah, financially, yeah, but it would literally take you an hour a month.
Yes, true. You place the order, you get the coins, and your bank would hate you at some point. Maybe if they did.
Why would they hate you?
I guess it depends where all those coins go. I mean, I guess it is just cash. But it's like that was the greatest scam ever. You could buy currency on your credit card.
Well, you still can, I think, at the Federal Reserve, if I remember right, or not the Federal Reserve, at is it the Federal Mint? It's whoever prints money.
The U.S. Mint?
You can buy uncut sheets of $20. And I can't remember how many it is per sheet. It's like 20 bills a sheet or something.
You have to cut it yourself?
Yeah, you have to cut it yourself. And, well, most people don't cut it. They use it as a piece of art. Frame it, stick it on the wall, whatever. But I'm pretty sure I paid with a credit card when I got the money.
It's genius.
So, yeah. And I remember Steve Wozniak talking about this many years ago, is that when he got rich off Apple, one of the trolls he used to do, I think that we were used to call these things pranks, but I think now they're called trolls, is to get these sheets. And then when he'd go to a restaurant or someplace and he'd be buying something, he'd, instead of pulling out, bills from his wallet, he would pull out an uncut sheet and a pair of scissors and then just cut out like a couple of $20 bills to give to the cashier.
They're like, that ain't real.
Yeah, exactly. And people are like, I need to call my manager over.
You can't print your own money, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. And, he's like, oh, I got a great printer. No, this thing's awesome. No, it's totally legal tender. It's. And then eventually, after everybody gets all upset, he'd explain it all or whatever. But it is kind of neat to be able, like, I can't imagine how expensive of a wallpaper it is. Do real money on your wall.
That would add up really quick.
But yeah, like you could probably get knockoff money on your wall pretty cheap compared to real money.
But that's not a baller thing to do. The baller thing to do is be like, no, that's real hundreds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I guarantee you, absolutely guarantee you, there are rooms wallpapered with real $100 bills in Vegas.
That it would be the place to do it.
Yeah, because it's not that expensive, but it is that gaudy.
Well, yeah. It is the town built on cash, baby. And greed. And people not understanding the odds of winning.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then, or more like people thinking they understand the odds of winning.
True.
If you just say, look, I don't understand these odds, you're probably not going to play. But if you're like, oh, I got it all figured out.
I have a system.
That's when you get in trouble.
Famous final words of a gambler. I've got a system.
Mm-hmm.
Surefire. And I did we talked on the last show about who talks more. And I did I just went through each of our channels and did the silence thing down. Although that would still mean that between the silences only went down to a second. So really I thought about it after. I'm like, what I should do is get rid of any silence at all rather than including the pauses. But you came in at an hour and 20 minutes and I came in at an hour and 8 minutes. And for a 2-hour show, that just shows you how much we talk over each other.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, talking over each other, I think, is what makes it a conversation.
Oh, that's true. It's not
because otherwise it's a freaking monologue or it's a dialogue. I guess it would be a dialogue. But I prefer conversation to dialogue because a dialogue is something you watch on TV or you go see a play. Whereas conversation in real life doesn't have people patiently waiting for the other to finish their thought. It has people that start talking while the other person is sort of finishing their thought.
There's the overlap. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
And have you noticed because I tried the bat signal on my Stream Deck to go out to Twitter. No longer works. I don't know if something changed now because of the API or something with.
Well, there's no more Twitter. It's called X.
I know, but it doesn't send it to X where.
Well, did they rewrite their thing?
I will have to look, see if it was updated.
Probably not. They needs to go to x.com now instead of going to twitter.com.
Ah, that would make sense. I'm like, where's my bat signal?
Yeah, exactly.
I want my bat signal. Then I want to print up some art. Got to see what. I was trying to figure out the legalities. We talked, I think, about the case of the Prince image that the guy made some changes to. Was that a Warhol thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the Warhol people did not win that one because I've been playing around with these AI art generators and they're very interesting for doing all sorts of different
artistic better late than never, I guess.
I know. Well, to be fair, they're getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And
the ones I'm interested in are the ones that do video, not just images.
Oh, that I've seen a few of those. I haven't started playing with those yet, but the most interesting AI video things I've seen will allow you to take your video and totally restylize it. Either change the background, change, the whole thing. It's you walking down the street talking, right? So you want to post this to YouTube, but then you could turn the whole thing into a comic looking drawing kind of a thing. It's very weird. But we're also at the point now where the images that these systems generate are still very small, like 1024 by 1024. But these systems that will now upscale are getting better and better as well. So you can take a small piece of art.
They will generate any size. What you and your cheap ass don't want to pay any money get is 1024 by 1024.
No, I thought even the paid versions on Midjourney and things like that only go up to that.
Again, they're cheap ass paid versions. If you have the source code, you do your own deal, you can do any size you want.
Which source code do you have?
I don't.
Well, see, there you go. I was going to install Stable Diffusion this weekend because the 1.0 finally came out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there's, if you install your own, you don't have that limitation. But I don't know. I got into this stuff like well over a year ago. It might be pushing 2 years now. And it was all very interesting. And there's a lot of changes happening literally week to week. But the important things are, do you have the rights, the full rights to these images? And if there's any question of that, it's definitely not worth paying money for.
The bottom line from what I've heard and read everywhere is that you do not have a copyright on the image, which would make sense
so
because
it makes it worthless.
They're not worthless in the sense that you can monetize it, but you don't own the copyright, which means, unfortunately, it can be reproduced at will, would be my guess. So you can put this out there. If you create a poster, now you can't put a copyright on it.
Right. It's sort of like here's Photoshop, but anything you create with Photoshop has to be open source or what's the CCC or whatever. What
that's the model.
Community Commons.
That
CC.
is what the Photoshop AI was trained on, was things within their own that they own the rights to, so they will not be trademark infringing. They said they will cover you, if you get hit because using their. The interesting thing with the AI,
they own huge libraries, so that they can afford to do that. They can definitely do that without any problems, because they've paid the licensing fees or purchased the copyrights outright for massive amounts of images for their stock libraries. So
where there's a lot of questions are people trying to interpret, because if there's any part of whether it's AI text thrown out by ChatGPT or AI art, if you go in and modify that, there is a point with enough modification, with enough transformation that does become copyrightable. But I don't know what that is. And I bet you most lawyers at this point don't know what that point is. As far as, hey, I take this image, the AI created it, but then I did this to the image. That's the question. What makes that unique? What makes it copyrightable?
Yeah, the problem is that there is no answer to that question.
As of yet.
It has always been subjective for hundreds of years. Copyright law in this country is not objective. It's always subjective.
Now, the interesting thing for me, when I'm like, okay, you can create all sorts of cool, like fashion posters. I'm like, okay, I had no idea before trying any of this stuff out that, it's great that you can go in and tell the AI, create a photorealistic photo of Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
That's obviously you're infringing upon somebody's likeness. that's bad.
Well, only if you're selling something with it.
Correct. But you can't go and say, hey, well, I created this. It looks just like Taylor Swift and it's a poster, but it's not real. It's art. You're still going to run afoul of the.
Well, no, if it's art, you don't have a problem there. Are you kidding me, dude? You've got literally thousands, if not millions, of artists, for lack of a better term,
that are
selling Elvis paintings and Marilyn Monroe paintings. And all these people have estates that could be suing people, but you can't, because if you create an artistic work of a public figure, that public figure does not have the copyright to go after you.
It just can't be based upon a copyrighted image, which is where the Warhol thing got in.
Of course.
If you take a photograph of somebody that another person took and then you just make it into something slightly different,
right,
you're going to get nailed.
Yeah. But I think all the AI is doing, and this is, for me, this is the easy way to explain it to people, is let's say I hired maybe it's not even doable these days, but back in the day, let's say I hired a high school kid on their summer break to take and find images that I like, that I want to use in something, and then go in and apply a bunch of filters in Photoshop so it doesn't look like it's that image.
Right.
So it's not an obvious ripoff. Like, do at least 4 filters per image to tweak things and make sure that like the size is different and that the background's different. And then after you do the 4 filters, just put them all in this other folder. That's basically what AI is doing. Now, the cool bit about it is it's letting you give instructions to that kid to do this stuff, not in a whole image, but by pieces of image. I want 2 people, and I want mountains in the background, and I want birds flying overhead. So find those 3 different images, combine them together, run them through filters, and give me the final product.
Yes, make it look pretty.
Well, not even.
Do it in different styles.
Make it look different.
I mean, it's great that you can do things.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want this to look like a Peter Max painting, and boom, it just.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Max style. I did a photo of my ex-wife back when we were married in a 4-color, or like a 4-panel different,
like the Warhol thing.
Yeah, it was total Warhol knockoff. So I did that in Photoshop and then had it printed on a like a 3-foot by 2-foot size canvas, and that was a birthday gift for her. She loved it. It looked awesome. But it's, like, it's iconic enough that it wasn't that hard just to make in Photoshop for me.
Right. Well, yeah, because it's a stamping kind of a thing. You're changing the colors and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's all Warhol did.
And then you figure out that there are actions that will do the whole thing and automate it for you. And
now there are. Yeah. Back then, I don't think there were. But yeah, now there for sure.
Now everything is spoon fed to you. And the thing that kind of depressed me about the AI thing was being able, and it's like, this is why for any of the brands that normally would pay the supermodels to use their image, and that's why supermodels in the past have been paid millions of dollars per year.
Yeah, that's over.
Because
same thing with actors.
Well, you can create your own, and I'm like, this is weird. Yep. Once I realized you could that you can mix people, I was like, oh, well, Taylor Swift's hot and Adriana Lima's hot. What happens if you mix the two? I know.
Yes.
And then I'm like, holy shit, this person doesn't exist. That's depressing.
You're such a perv.
But it's not. What would it look like?
And what would she look like if she's like dressed up in BDSM?
No, I didn't. I didn't get to that part yet. I'll have to get the gene.
Well, that's the next step.
The gene model for the AI, and it'll just spit that out.
Yeah, the by default.
Yeah, gene AI. But it's like, this is because you aren't really infringing on somebody's likeness. And I know that you have all sorts of different things you can do and artists and all that, but you're not really infringing on somebody's likeness if you're like, well, let's take these 3 models and just mix them together and see what that comes out. Oh yeah, that one's good. Let's use this as a new model.
Yeah, it's a blending tool for people. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is a great use of it, and it should do what should have been done a long time ago, which is actors and models should never be rich. Never.
Well, while once was unique, is now easily reproducible.
Models were never rich until a photography came along.
Right.
When you had models for paintings, it wasn't the model that got the accolades, it was the painter. And they may have a great looking model that they were using when they were painting. And that's why, the painting looks so cool. But does anybody really remember the woman or man that posed for Mona Lisa? Nope. They remember the guy that painted it.
Well, it was once, as you said, once you were able to capture the image of somebody accurately, then the physical beauty became a thing that you could monetize.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Brands paid big money because they wanted the most attractive people. The beauty is now.
It's interesting you're talking about this because, or maybe it's not, maybe it's coincidental, but I just saw a story about how there are more and more virtual, what do you call them? Like people with a lot of followers.
Social media people?
Yeah, but there's a name.
Influencers?
Influencers, yes. There's a growing number of fully virtual video influencers. Like they're computer generated, computer modeled, and not just doing it to get, people following him, which I'm sure helps as well, but doing that and then selling the influencer service to brands. So I watched a couple of commercials that were done by these essentially cartoons, right? They're super photorealistic, but they're essentially cartoons in the sense that they're done on a
well, you could tell
by a computer. Not these, man. Looks completely like a hot chick.
Like, so why would you say it was cartoon? Just because
well, I say cartoon not because it looks cartoony, but because it is it's like a character in a video game, right? It's a 3D model.
Yeah, well, it looks
that
real.
Is animated. It's an animated. I said cartoon. I meant animated.
So you can tell it's not a physical person, but it looks damn close.
No, you cannot tell at all. But the guys buying the advertising say, "Hey, we'd like this character to do this," and then have her be on the mountaintop and drinking the soda, and then have her be flying an airplane in the next scene, and like you can do anything, like stuff that a real person can't do, like standing on the moon.
Right. Right. Well, wait, why can't we do that?
Because we've never been there.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Just all these things that they can do because it's animated, but it's photorealistically animated.
Right.
And so the end result is, and this is from, I think it was from Advertising Age, is that the clients love this.
Oh, yeah.
And the clients being the brands. The brands are like, holy shit, this is perfect. We don't have to put up with a long time schedule. This is done fairly quickly. There is no risk of that model not being available because A, models are flaky, and B, they're more prone to, if they're doing physical activities, more prone to do something that gets them taken out of commission, blah, blah, blah. So now we can have something that is on a real guaranteed schedule, looks better than any human. And although I'm sure you would argue with that, but it's great. It is fulfilling clearly a desire that exists with the brands to have somebody that can be a spokesman for their brand that isn't an actual human being with all the problems of a human being.
Well, yeah, you're never going to go all Jared from Subway.
Exactly. There's never going to be. I mean, I never say never because humans are still involved in this process, but you're extremely unlikely to have this computer generated model do something that gets them in trouble.
That would be true. It would be very hard.
They're not going to be, they're not likely to be accused of rape by somebody or, molestation or anything else. It's like, it's a purely computer generated image that has no real interaction with anybody, but also is a computer generated animation that is followed by 1 million people plus.
Yes. And again, the weirdness with the AI is that with the prompts and everything that people have built into these things and the way it's been trained, I did have the very weird vibe. It's like when you create some of these, I pulled up against some Taylor Swift stuff, and it's like the AI Taylor Swift often looks better than the real Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Because the AI is like, well, we got to get rid of any imperfection, of course.
Well, I think it's simpler than that. I think that the majority of Taylor Swift images are
controlled,
approved photos of her. And so the AI is biased towards those images, whereas the quick little photo from somebody's phone when they're walking by her is a small percentage of images. So you're going to have a much more controlled, cleaner, prettier version of Taylor Swift.
Right.
Instead of this big kind of hulking horse-like thing that somebody might see walking down the street.
Well, and how instantaneous it can do things like show me this person in like a 1950s advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just so bizarre. It does that so well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, again, if you're trying to create things for advertising, why wouldn't you use that instead? And if you're like, oh, you know what I'd really like, who would be the perfect spokesperson? Somebody that looked like Taylor Swift, but more exotic. So again, you go, well, okay, let's mix her with this Brazilian model here and this. Okay, we're good. There's the new person.
I imagine like you can now create campaigns for the whole world using people that look like that local demographic.
Oh, yeah.
But doing the exact same activities.
You're right. Immediately.
Yeah. It's coming. It's huge. And I don't know if you saw right now, SAG is on strike.
Yes.
And Bryan Cranston from the
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Breaking Bad.
Malcolm in the Middle.
What an idiot. There's a clip of him ranting behind the podium talking about how actors are relevant and that they shouldn't be replaced with machines. It's like, oh my God, dude, too little, too late. First of all, like he's enough of an actor that he would not be affected by this. What is affected and what the studios have already started doing, which totally makes sense. I'd be doing it if I was a studio. And because, it's financially smart, is instead of paying for extras that don't actually have speaking parts, just do all CGI for that. All computer generated humans, all based around AI. So they're non-existent humans that you don't have to pay anything for. You're already paying the guys that do the CGI anyway for the movie. You might as well have them go the extra step and throw in an AI controlled background people. And of course, everybody knows that that's a small short step away from not needing actors.
Well, you don't have to worry about miking them. You don't have to worry. There's so many things that the computer concept is going to take care of. And again, for people like you and me that don't like to get up and, get dressed and look pretty to do a podcast, wouldn't it be great if you could just do that and it would all
we could be on YouTube and we'd have a show of us sitting there
but then also that people wouldn't recognize you when they saw you out in real life because the avatar does not look like you, especially if you say things that piss people off.
A guy who shaves his head, got a long beard and wears tracksuits, you'd never recognize in a million years.
No. I mean, people don't know you really have a full head of hair, no beard. Gene's like 120 pounds of pure dynamite.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people
I don't remember a time when I was 120 pounds ever. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I was born bigger than that.
Yeah. I mean, I was by the time I was in 8th grade, I think I was already 6'1". So it's been a while. It has been a while. But I like, I'm not, and then again, I'm not a beautiful model. So the AI visual things don't really bother me. I'm not a multi-million-dollar actor. So these things don't bother me.
But again, the reason that we have multi-million-dollar actors is because that's the only way that it was possible to make multi-million-dollar movies. And so actors having lawyers that can negotiate on their behalf and agents and whatnot, you end up with movie studios go, well, if we pay them $30 million, then we could probably pocket the other $400 million.
Well,
that's not a bad deal. Let's do it.
How much money is spent and how many resources are spent to get the shot. The latest Mission Impossible movie, I watched a little mini documentary thing, about 20 minutes long on the one stunt that Tom Cruise did while taking the motorcycle down a really long ramp.
I watched that too, dude. That was great.
It was fantastic. But with the technology getting where it is, soon you'll just be able to punch that into a machine. And
but even that, right? The stunt ended up in the movie, but the CGI was everything outside of the motorcycle itself, including the grass, including everything was CGI.
Yeah, you didn't see him going down some really big, long ramp for no apparent reason.
It was just he did the stunt, and that's really cool. And I like that about Tom Cruise. I think he's a crazy dude, but crazy in a fun, good way.
Yes, and he wants to do his own stunts.
He's got his own religion. That's cool too. But it's unnecessary. It's probably already unnecessary today. They could have CGI'd the whole thing, but he likes doing that kind of stuff. He likes getting the adrenaline going, and he keeps the thetans off his back.
You want that other little bit of realism too, which you're still getting a little bit more of that even with the technology we have today. But I think in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be the same. You're not going to be able to see a difference.
Yeah. No. And this was all predicted in a 1980s movie called Looker, I believe.
I don't remember that one. I thought you were going with weird science because I'm still trying to figure out how I could just type a few things in and Kelly Brock appears in my house.
It was a Michael Crichton movie. It was called Looker.
Gene reviews movies he hasn't seen for 20 years.
I know. Isn't this 81? It came out in 81. This is how good my memory is. Right?
It must be all that B12.
For useless things.
Right. For
Looker is a 1981 American science fiction film written and directed by Michael Crichton, starring Albert Finney, Susan Day, and James Coburn. Follows a series of mysterious deaths plaguing female models who have undergone cosmetic surgery from a renowned Los Angeles physician. By the way, physicians don't do plastic surgery, but okay. And that's Wikipedia. What do you expect? Of course, they're going to get it wrong. But then I'm not going to click on the link, but the next sentence would say, after being contracted by movie studios to create digital likenesses of themselves. So this is the bit that is a little like, is that these actors, models go into a plastic surgeon, get made to look quote unquote perfect, then get scanned by the studio in a very 1980s looking high-tech scanner.
So it looks like something out of like Tron.
Yeah, that looks just like out of Tron, exactly. Except not as good because the budget was smaller. And then they die because it's cheaper to not have to pay them for their likeness. Again, this kind of misses the point that, well, yes, but their relatives would still own that. But that was a cool movie. I remember enjoying it in 1981.
Well, it's interesting because likenesses overall, we never had the technology, so there was no reason to worry about, wow, somebody might put Marilyn Monroe back in a movie, which they have now. How many years after her death.
And Elvis has been in a whole bunch of movies.
Because they have enough source material, which, again, if you're Taylor Swift, there's so much source material out there, you could be recreated whether you want to be or not.
I guaranteed there are Taylor Swifts doing shit already in Chinese porn.
Well, and it's also for the catfishing concept. Just imagine that This is also a very interesting thing because back in the day, if you were trying to catfish somebody, well, maybe you would go grab a photo of a real person and then somebody.
Oh, is that what you would do? Oh, okay.
You'd go and get a reverse image search. It was always trying to figure out how you could track these people down. Yeah. Now that you can create completely new characters, completely new people out of thin air.
Right. That are untrackable. Yeah. Speaking of catfishing.
Yes. Or you want to do that? You want to try that with somebody? It's going to be a new part of the show.
I know, right? No, that's just funny. So I have a buddy of mine that got a security clearance about a year and a half ago or so. And I think he got TS for his work. But he almost immediately, probably within like 2 months, started getting messages or connection requests on LinkedIn, of all places, by these very cute Chinese girls. And most of them were like saying they were in California or they were on somewhere on the West Coast. But, some of them clearly had some Chinese characters in there. Like, it took no time at all for those connection requests by completely random, have nothing in common, clearly 20-something-year-old looking Chinese girls.
You didn't want to jump on that train?
No, I told them, well, this is bullshit. So now it means, if I want this, I need to get a security clearance first. Well, that's bullshit. Yes. This is too much work.
I have a security clearance. All of a sudden, Fang Fang wants the bang bang.
Yeah, back when I had mine, nobody wanted to bang bang anybody.
We don't want the information you've got. So sorry.
Clearly not. And I had some pretty cool info back in Desert Shield. You remember Desert Shield, Desert Storm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah, not the crappy remake.
Back when people were still behind wars.
Well, not so much. But
Spycraft has gotten different. I mean, it used to be a lot more interpersonal. Now it's more just they're going to start sniffing on your IP address.
They've always been sniffing on your IP address, but
when you had them. I mean, you go back to before IP addresses.
Well, I mean, technically no, but there were certainly IP addresses were used a lot less back then.
But do you think this? I mean, we're already here, which I think is bullshit. There was a story how many school districts are suing social media, saying that it's unhealthy for children, which it is, but I don't know how the school districts get involved when the reality is that this is a parenting decision. If parents want to let their kids be on the internet at 12 years old, that's up to them. It's the same thing. I
think you have to be 13.
Well, they say that, but parents give kids much younger. Oh yeah, just click here. It'll just say yes.
Dude, I've seen parents that give their 4-year-olds tablets. Like fully unsupervised.
And you're like, are you crazy?
It seems like it's like dropping a kid off at the adult bookstore.
Right.
And then saying, hey, now don't do anything I wouldn't.
And that's it. People don't understand the internet is not safe for adults. It's certainly not safe for children. And thinking that there's anywhere that you could do any kind of filtering or whatnot, it is absolutely a joke. But part of this lawsuit was the usual that, girls, body image, eating disorders and all of that. With the advance of this AI, again, you could just create things that are not humanly possible, like a Taylor Swift, Adriana Lima clone mix.
For Christ's sake, how many times are you going to mention? That's another multiple bingo card reference right there.
Right there.
If you can't have an episode without Darren mentioning
Adriana Lima, Taylor Swift.
Less frequently, but still quite often. Yes.
Candace Swanepoel.
I like the Adrian Curry more than that.
He liked the big eyes.
I don't know about big eyes. I just like Adrian Curry. I like her personality.
Of course.
I think she's got the right, definitely is a chick that I would enjoy.
But you think there are issues.
And she's old even, but she's still hot.
But they're claiming that the kids are having issues now on social media because of actual photographs being shared by actual peers of theirs, or adults, whatever. But soon it's going to be the AI. And of course, the AI, who's going to create a bad looking, out of shape, ugly, deformed AI person? No. We're going into another phase of, it's got to be perfect, got to be beautiful. This is what you should be. As you said, when people are creating these fake influencers, there's big money there. Why? Because they're perfect.
Yeah, they're totally perfect.
So again, this is what's being...
Because people forever have been, and see, this is where I talk over you.
I know this happens all the time.
Have been using
that's the beauty of the show. We could do a 2-hour show.
Photoshop.
That if you separate both sides,
2 hours,
you could get a 4-hour show.
I know, it's great. It's what everybody likes. It's like, hey, do you really want 4 hours? Well, it's there. It's just secretly hidden for you.
Right. Just separate left and right and listen to them separately.
All right. Or just not listen to one of them, as some people I'm sure would love to do, that they keep talking about on No Agenda Social.
They just turn to the one side and they're like, can we just get Darren in the left channel and then like Gene in the right?
And yeah, Darren in the left, nobody in the right.
Right. This is we're sorry, technical difficulties. But that's not entirely true. I mean, there are some people, and I guess we actually have multiple people that have donated for the show. So maybe we should do a donation segment before we get it right to the end of the show.
Let's do it.
I know it's a rarity for us because we are a value for value podcast. We just don't have a lot of people that take us up on that.
Well, no, I think we are a value for value, and we know what our value is.
It's very high. And
no, it's damn near nothing.
It takes a very, very specific person to get value out of the show. And when we find those people, we appreciate it. But number one today, and let me pull this into the middle monitor just so I can read this properly. Dale from Down Under once again coming in with the mythical $103.48 donation. And I had emailed him. He just starts out with a little bit because I emailed him. It was that 1 week, and he sent in one of these donations, and I had something going on, and we had to push it. And that was one of the first times we actually rescheduled the show for a Monday or something. Or do we always do them on Monday? It gets confusing.
We always do it Monday. What are you talking about?
And he's like, oh, shit, I had no idea he emailed. I sent it and took off. I've been on holiday for a couple of weeks. I hope you've been enjoying that. He's like, I feel bad now. You didn't have to do a show. Like, well, yeah, we do. Because, I mean, if somebody supports the show, Gene and I are like, wait, people are listening? We perk right up. That's the beautiful part of the whole thing. We perk right up. It's like, wait, somebody's listening? Really?
Yeah.
Wait,
I have a hard time believing that, but okay.
They're listening and they like the show. There are 67 on the stream right now. There was some talk. It might have been after.
I wouldn't say that there's 67 on the stream. I would say there might be 67 streams that are currently turned on.
True, but we don't know they're being monitored.
Listening to them.
They could just be 3-letter agencies monitoring them. There was some talk. I don't remember if it was before or during.
If it wasn't for the NSA, it wouldn't have any listeners at all.
Right. We'd be like, nothing at all, man. So we love you guys at the NSA. Thanks for listening. And gals, don't want to misgender, but there was some chatting before maybe Grumpy Old Ben's or after or during on we were questioning whether Dale from Down Under was actually real or if he was just a pseudonym for you, that you really needed to talk to somebody so badly that you were sending in the donations in order to keep the show going.
Well, that would literally be impossible, as I keep telling people to not send money. So,
yeah, but see,
seriously, we've got 20% inflation. I don't understand why anybody would be sending money at all.
You're throwing them off with that. See, maybe things are good in Australia, though. Maybe. Although I doubt it.
Well, they're upside down, so maybe the money's falling out of our pockets and into theirs.
This is possible. Could be going right through. If we dig a hole, it'll go right through to China. That kind of a concept. But
it kind of does.
Dale's actual note says, comrades. Girls call them pay pigs. Boys call them suckers. Idolizing, mediocre, pussy, or simp for short. After a light ribbing, which I appreciate, Sir Gene handling with dignity. Yeah, because he took some shots at you, I think, in the last letter. He says that incident and the following events have revealed a sinister plot. The banning from IRC, of course, this being your banning from IRC.
Yes.
Not just
Lifetime.
the troll room. The protocol itself, yes. Gene has been the protocol IRC. Somehow he's been banned.
Uh-huh.
Second class audio channels. Getting him up on his day off for some smart-ass prick in Australia. It's clear to me that Sir Gene is a beautiful butterfly, trapped and unable to escape. The chrysalis Sir Darren O has constructed around him.
Mm-hmm.
Fly free, Sir Gene.
Yeah.
Stay unrelenting. That's a beautiful note.
Nice. Yeah. I wonder what he's trying to butter me up for. He's probably going to ask. I'll be an ask sitting in my inbox.
Yeah.
Hey, so on your next show,
or it'll just be the next letter. It'll be totally bad.
I've said this before, and it's I think it's been the case for a long time. Is I think I treat everybody the same, just like shit. So
that's the demo
there's
way.
There's really nobody should get offended at me trying to point to them specifically, because all my comments are literally spread out to pretty much everybody. But I know some people tend to
internalize.
Yeah, they think I'm talking to them specifically when I call Australia a penal colony or something. But I'm not. I'm referring to all of Australians, not just any individual Australian.
You're trying to get as many in one little slam as
I'm generalizing. That's what people do. You generalize based on historical facts, and you say, well, not much has changed, has it?
Especially people with podcasts. We generalize. We try to be a little bit provocative. That's what you're on the show for.
I leave that up to you. You and all your provocative photos that you're creating in your basement.
And you are an agent provocateur. I'm not in the basement now. It's got the flooring's all torn up. Got to get new carpet put down there.
Well, you're not sitting ankle deep in rotten water in the basement doing this podcast with live wires running everywhere? What?
I should. We could have the Nick the Rat.
Good for your heart, Darren.
Yeah, you could have. Well, yeah, it would be very, very humid down there. That'd be good.
Yeah.
We have a new sump pump system going in on Monday morning.
Well, somebody's been spending the big bucks.
Yeah. Well, once you flood twice, you're like, how much is the one with the two pumps and the battery backup?
Darren needs a new gadget to suck bad water out of his basement.
Yeah, it's like $1,700.
Is it really? Holy shit!
Yeah, for the unit, the install.
Why
and the
is
battery.
It that much? Because I remember putting in a sump pump back in the 80s, and it was like $120.
The pumps themselves, this is a system that has two pumps on the same unit. So, which is, I know this is overkill, but the wife is like, I am never carrying this shit up the stairs again after the flooding thing. So this is two discrete pumps on the same system. So if one of them fails, the other one can kick in, and there's a battery backup system, which will run the sump pump, for at least 24 hours. So if the power goes out again.
How big is this?
The battery is like a car battery.
Oh my God.
But this way, if the power, which is what bit us twice, was the power going out during a heavy rain, thus the sump pump not running.
Right.
So it was either that or a whole house generator, which also
Have you considered maybe drilling a well?
Well, there is a well. That's where the sump pump goes down into. But when it rains, it overflows and it gets to be too much and it comes into the basement.
Okay, that's just poorly designed house.
Probably, but that's what everything is, all up and down the street here. Really, having the basement is kind of, it's nice and for certain things, but the reality is, probably better just building an extra level on higher in the house.
Well, and so this is the way all houses are down in Texas, and by all, I mean most. Nobody has basements. Like, it's super, super, super rare. And if it is a basement, it's probably like a full walkout in the back, and it's only a basement in the front. But I was very surprised.
No wine cellars?
No wine cellars. I was very surprised at this because, I grew up in a place where everybody has a basement in Minnesota. There's a, first of all, you have tornadoes.
Right.
So
Well, this
you
is
need a basement.
I was going to say, this is the one place you can go if you want to take refuge from a tornado.
The best thing you can do to avoid a tornado is
move
to not
south.
live next to a trailer park.
True.
Because trailer park they're literal magnets for tornadoes.
They have never figured out how to prove that, but it seems that it's true.
Statistically true. If you look at the paths for tornadoes, they tend to bend towards trailer parks and away from downtown areas.
It's kind of like whoever is in charge of the tornadoes are like, I don't like people in trailers.
Well, I think it may have more to do with the construction of maybe there's some material utilized in the trailer parks that is attracting tornadoes. I don't know if you would ascribe some higher power to a tornado, but yeah, I think there's something to it.
You're right. It's a rarity. I think there was one that touched down in Chicago recently, but normally tornadoes and downtown Chicago,
they don't mix.
Yeah. No. Well, it's because the wind flow and everything else.
There was one in Fort Worth maybe a decade ago that went through and actually did some damage to buildings in Fort Worth proper. But it's super, super rare. Like your odds of being involved in a tornado if you live in a condo downtown are 0.00000, whole bunch of zeros in a one. So versus if you're living in a trailer park anywhere in the United States, your odds are about 1 in 5.
And you're going to go for a ride.
Yeah, and you're not going to be in Kansas anymore, that's for sure.
No, well, you may.
I watched a video that was a great video of a tornado going through. That was filmed by one of those security cameras. It was a totally peaceful, no wind at all kind of parking lot. And then all of a sudden you can see the trees starting to go left, right in the background. And you start seeing some small debris flying by the cars. And then you see trees bending over like they shouldn't be. And large crap flying through and some of it hitting cars. Like people-sized things flying. Not actual people.
Let's hope not, yes.
Like, 3 to 6 foot long pieces of some kind of debris flying around. And then just like it started, it was gone. The whole video was about 3 minutes and it was back to totally quiet, no wind at all, except that a lot of destructions came through. Interesting thing, and this makes sense if you think about it, but cars completely unaffected by tornado.
Usually.
None of the cars were moved. None of the cars had anything weird going on. And this was literally throwing large debris around, which hit the cars. There's damage, but they did not get moved. And the reason it shouldn't be surprised is because cars have aerodynamic considerations
right,
for gas mileage.
And trying to keep it on the ground. The more...
less so. I mean, that's only at high speeds, but at reasonable speeds, they're really built to have airflow around them, not interacting with them. So while the wind speed in a tornado is high, it's more the force than the speed itself. That is the issue, is when you have a, typical wind is you have gusts that you might go from 5 mile an hour steady wind to 25 mile an hour gust. In a tornado, that it's all the same speed the whole way through, which is why it puts sufficient enough pressure on the surface area to move large objects, because it's not just a little bit of a gust and then it lets up again. It's continuous. And so with cars, while I'm sure there have been instances of cars being moved by tornadoes, but for the most part, even a 180 mile an hour wind isn't going to move a car, because your engine may not get the car up to 180 miles an hour, but the car that you buy today has better aerodynamics than race cars than Ferraris did 30 years ago.
One good thing. So I've never been in a tornado.
I would never advise somebody to sit in a car during a tornado.
Yeah, don't sit out and watch like, hey, this looks nice.
But I would probably do exactly that.
You're hoping
versus being in a house with no basement.
Well, this is true.
Because your house, here's the news. Your house was not designed to be aerodynamic.
No, it was not. And
so
if you get enough wind, I mean, I've never been in a tornado. Our buddy John Fletcher from the Hog Story show that you did that one time.
Never done that show, but yeah.
One of those.
Oh, I did. I did it once.
Right.
Yes, that's right. I did do it once. You're right.
You didn't inhale, though.
I did not inhale, and that's why I was confused the entire show. I was like, what are we talking about? Because I think we were talking about BDSM. And I kept trying to ask them questions that were relevant, and they kept not answering them and then changing topics.
That's what they do. Exactly what they do. But
yeah, I don't.
One of those big storms that you know, a few weeks ago that y'all had down there in Texas, a lot of those big storms. He had a tornado. His power was out for days, but the tornado, he said, was within 100 feet of his house. I'm like, now I guess that's lucky to get that close and not have your house picked up and carried away.
The closest I've ever been is about 500 feet.
I hear the noise those things make is unlikely to be explained by anything except maybe a freight train going by it.
Freight trainy for sure, but nowhere near the noise of a lightning strike. And I was about 60 feet away from one of those. And I was standing with a camera and taking photos.
Well, did you get the picture?
I did not. That's the part that sucked. But then afterwards, I realized I've had a lot of moments in my life where I realized after the moments, and a lot of them had to do with cameras. I used to be really big into photography. Boy, how did I make it out of there? Because it was a rainy day, and it was there was a lot of lightning in the air. So I did the most sensible thing you can imagine. I drove my car up to a big hill, grabbed my metal tripod, ran up the hill to get a beautiful photo of lightning.
Get the higher ground, Gene, with the big metal pole.
Yeah. Because everything was metal back in the day, including cameras and tripods. This is back in film cameras days, kids. And it was. I got a few decent shots. Never got anything that was really pretty. And then all of a sudden, I kind of felt my hair standing on end. And then the loudest crack you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah.
And after it and then everything got dark. Not because I was hit, but because the flash that was literally feet away from me is realistically, it was probably 100 feet, but it looked like it was about 10 feet away. But it was so bright that my irises, went into day mode.
Right.
And it was the middle of the night. And so now I'm like, fuck, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
So I grabbed my stuff, ran back down the hill, threw it in the car. Started driving, and there was a huge puddle on the exit from the parking lot that was probably about 1.5 feet deep. And I just decided to fuck it. I'm just going to floor it. Floored it through there. And just as I came out of the puddle, my engine died. And I was like, oh, this is perfect day. So I pushed the car up, turned over the engine a whole bunch of times, and finally it caught, but it didn't sound good. And I drove it back home, barely. And so that day, not only did I almost get hit by lightning, but I also blew a head gasket.
Oh, nice.
Because the back pressure from being the exhaust being underwater.
Yeah, that's not good.
Caused a little too much pressure and the head gasket blew. That's a gasket inside the engine for those of you that have no clue how cars work.
Just get in and drive. That's all I
know, right? It's like it just has a battery. What are you talking about? So then I had a buddy of mine next weekend come over and help replace the head gasket on that engine. So I was like, I know my way around cars, but I also don't enjoy tinkering with cars. So if I can pay somebody to do it for me, I tend to do that more often.
Like everything else. I mean, you don't really, you could cook, but you could pay somebody else to do that. You can work on your car. You can pay somebody to do that. You can jerk off. You can pay them. I'm guessing you can.
Well, you could.
You could pay
Yeah,
somebody
definitely
to do
could.
that. But I know
Yeah.
the sound of the lightning. I'm sure this is the closest I've ever been to a lightning strike was when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Was sitting in class, storm coming through, and right outside of the window, I was on the second floor,
Mm-hmm.
and right outside of the window, there were a bunch of temporary classrooms, which were pretty much permanent, but they were trailers. So
Mm-hmm.
we had the trailers there. So the roof of the trailer was about the same level, obviously, as the floor that I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the noise. The noise hit, and it was the loudest thing had ever heard. Multiple windows in the classroom shattered due to the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And we all get up and we look out, and obviously the lightning had hit the roof. It hit this trailer because the whole top of this thing, and it was still raining fairly hard,
Mm-hmm.
was just steaming like a sauna.
Yep.
It was like, holy crap, that was intense. I'm hoping I don't think anybody was in the trailer at the time.
Yeah. And I've seen some slow motion videos of lightning strikes. They're so beautiful, man. They look so cool.
So deadly.
Well, yes, deadly for sure, but they're absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's just it is a rare event that I think everybody should appreciate when they have an opportunity to be near one. As long as you stay safe, obviously, don't do what I did.
Right. Do not go outside with a golf club, wave it around.
No.
You want to have full rubber shoes. You want to be inside. You want to be on the ground.
Yeah. Do you want to have full melted feet? Is that the goal here? Because that's going to happen.
Well, now are you mad that the AIs could just reproduce the photographs that make it look like you got the shot?
That's great. That means everybody can get the shots they want. I'm all for that. I think I've always been very pro technology. When we moved to digital cameras from film cameras, I was right there, right from the get-go. I remember the crappy ass resolution we had on digital, but I was still very much a big fan of digital.
Yeah, when digital hit, it was not even close to what you could get out of a film camera.
Oh, no.
Now I think it's surpassed it. I mean, a lot of people will argue it, but
they're not very. They don't understand how film works. Then
yes, and the beautiful
even
thing,
slide film, which was typically really high res and for color, and then black and white was the highest res. But we're well beyond that point with digital now. We're at the point where we're really pushing our eyeballs. Like we're at a point digitally now at over 100 megapixels, where arguably most people can't see that well with their eyeballs.
I know,
even when they're kids.
Yeah,
which is when you have your best vision is when you're a kid.
Well, the interesting thing is there are now dedicated programs and things like within Photoshop, which will take the digital photographs and make it look like analog. So it's like you're getting enough data where you can now just go, okay, well, if we do this kind of processing, this will look like
it's sad to me because you're deteriorating the quality.
Yeah, well, exactly. But you're doing it to get a certain look. Again, there is something to be said for that completely 100% crisp, clear photograph. But I love the look of saying, well, put this person in a 1950s ad.
Sure.
And there is it's that certain look that you're going for. So yes, it's not perfect, but it is a recreation of the way things used to look. I mean, Polaroids. Let's remember Polaroids, kids. The look
horrible.
I know, but that's how people remember them fondly. That was the original. Like you didn't have to look really good because a Polaroid was going to just smooth out that acne. You didn't have nothing to worry about because the detail wasn't there. And that was one of the biggest things when HD TV came out that nobody had really thought about was all of like the newscasters at all these small little stations across the country who were like, oh, I look like crap now.
Yeah.
We're not meant to be seen in HD. Gina and I are not meant to be seen in HD.
I look just fine in HD. I've been on plenty of times in HD.
But
the thing with HD is obviously you see a lot more of the imperfections and the variances. But you also do in real life. I mean, that's the thing is, like you're used to if you're not an incel, you're used to looking at other people up close. So HD looks more like that, whereas pre-HD video looked artificially plasticky smooth.
There was a reason why everybody preferred it.
Yeah. This is also, and you could like with, nobody preferred it actually. But,
it was that glow. It was that glowiness of those.
It was a pound of makeup too. That's the other thing that was horrible. And I've never liked it. I hate makeup. When I was doing photo shoots with models, I always had my own stylist working on there because she knew that I wanted really light makeup. Just stick to the basics. Get the eyebrows and eyelashes and a little bit of gloss on the lips, but just keep it super simple. I don't want to take a photo of a slathering of makeup. I want to take a photo of the person behind that.
Yeah, and then you could go into Photoshop and fix whatever you need to fix.
Yeah, which that's the other thing that was also a difference. And I think I talked about this on either on our show or my other show. I can't remember anymore. But
well, you don't even do the other one anymore. You've kind of given up on that.
No, the other one.
The Good Old Boys
every week. The Good Old Boys, yeah. But it was probably this show. But I mentioned that back in the day, after digital was out and after people were doing a lot of tweaking in Photoshop, a bunch of us, and I was part of that group, had put together a group called Through the Lens.
Right. Yeah, it was on here. You talked about that.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, then it's the same thing. So the point is, the real skill, in my opinion, is getting what you're trying to create as an artist to be what comes out of your camera. Because
now, though, people are getting paid the big bucks to get that out of an AI, and all they're doing is creating prompts, and it's sad.
And that's fine. No, that's perfectly fine. I'm not against that at all.
Is that another, you will look at that as a viable form of artistic expression?
Absolutely. It is literally how, and frankly, dude, it might save the English language because texting has fucked up the English language.
True.
And if it requires you to be more articulate and use more descriptive language and know the meaning of more adverbs and adjectives in order to create beautiful art, well then great. I'm all for it.
That, you know what? That is blowing my mind. I had not thought of that aspect of the digital art, which is you have to be fairly articulate. You have to know how to spell. You have to know what words mean.
Yeah. Your vocabulary has to be large in order to create good AI art.
It's very interesting looking at the prompts that people use for certain things and understanding how the machine interprets them, although it's changing still day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get it to the point to where it's more where you could just use conversational terms rather than having to have a list and a certain order and all of that. But it is interesting. You're right. You need to know what words mean. Cotton Gin says, what's an adjective? You see, this is what it's come to in this world. It's like people are like, words? I don't understand it.
Well, the tongue-in-cheek answer is it's a word you should never use when you're writing.
Right. Well, at least that's what Grammarly and every other thing tells you. Like, you're using too many
Do not use adjectives. But when you're trying to create a description of something that doesn't exist, adjectives are very helpful.
Yeah, that's where the machine gets to pick out what it knows. And it is interesting stuff. I know I'm getting into it a lot later than most, but it is still...
well, you are a late bloomer.
Yeah. It's like I really had no reason to mess around with it. It's like, what are you going to do with this? But the more you look into the deep fakes and you see the videos and stuff of Donald Trump falling down like Joe Biden, and you're like, well, how is this being done? I'm intrigued. I want to know the secret sauce. I want to know what's normal, what is able to be done. I don't know if there's ever going to be a way to recognize it besides just having a good bullshit meter.
4 fingers.
Yeah, the model with 18 fingers, that is getting better and better. And I think we're getting close to
I think the reason for that is pretty simple, is that in photos and images, people always hold their hands together. You can't ever see the number of fingers people have in images.
Well, and what
they're not distorted, but most people aren't holding up 5 distinct separate fingers on their hands in photos, because you're kind of told where to put your hands if you're working with professionals, or what to do. And if you're not told, they're going to be by your side flat, where you're not going to see all the fingers.
Right.
So if you have a program that is looked at literally millions of images, and it looks like in most of those images, if you didn't know better, most people have 2 or 3 fingers.
Correct. And when their hands aren't together, your fingers bend in an almost infinite number of ways where that's what confuses it, because it's like, you don't know if it's the aspect you're looking at or if it's the angle or what it is. So I would think that there has to be a way to do some kind of self-correction, which is like, this is the average human. They have 4 fingers and a thumb. Here's how it usually looks.
But it's not at that level. So there's right now, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here on this, but to my understanding, none of the current AI programs actually map the what the hell's the word I'm thinking of? It's basically to the human body. Like they're not mapping those images. Like that wasn't a part of the training, is to look at the images and then map onto a 3D model representing all the features of a human body, what you see in that photo. Because if you were, that is kind of to some extent, that'll need to be done to do full motion video with just looking at flat images and then converting them to full motion.
There are some smaller models. Of course, they're not the massive ones, but there are ones that are very specific to, a human.
But those models generally don't include fingers. They're very simplistic. They typically include hips, knees, a bendy spine, and then, your shoulders and elbows and wrists.
Everybody needs a bendy spine.
They don't involve the individual joints in the fingers. I've never seen a model like that. So it's interesting. It's like, it's all coming. Like, if it doesn't exist, it's not because it can't be. It's because it hasn't yet.
We do have a few more people to thank. This is a long donation segment.
Well, I've stretched it out, I think, a little bit.
But thanks to Dale again, who says, fly free, Sir Gene. And you should. Surly Mofo, who came in, he's in the troll room right now, trollroom.io. But he came in right at the end of the last show with $25, says, never relent. And we thank you for your courage, Surly Mofo. Now, this one, I was doubly confused because I liked it because I got a $25 donation for unrelenting from this person and a $25 donation to Grumpy Old Ben's. Yeah, this is from Jay Cotticini. And the note here says, bring back agreeing old Ben's with Sir Bemrose and Sir Gene. And it was a very similar note that was sent.
Old Ben's.
Yeah, that was sent. You guys maybe want to start that show. That was sent over to the other show. And I'm like, well, this is great, Jay. I love this because when you send it
for you.
Right. It's like he sent in $50, $12.50 for you, $12.50 for Bemrose, and $25 for me, the guy who did nothing but put the
exactly
to upload the show. I think this is a great system.
Hold on.
Yes.
It sounds like you're a Hollywood producer now.
I'd like that gig. That's a pretty good gig. I'm the producer of Agreeing Old Ben's, available on the Darren O'Neill network of podcasts.
It sure sounds like it. Yeah.
Maybe that's the exit strategy, produce other shows. But as Ryan pointed out during Grumpy Old Ben's, he's like, well, Gene didn't even put the audio together. He just sent you our 2 sides and said, post it.
Yeah. Well, why would I put it together if you want to? I assumed you were going to put it through filters and shit.
Yeah, I did the magic.
You've got both my filter and his filter.
Yeah. Well, I just put him through my filter because I was kind of bored that day and decided to see how and his mic is a little, I don't get it because you have the same mic, but he comes through cleaner. And I don't know if that's maybe it's he does use a channel strip. So he's probably got a little EQing going on pre the clean feed. But that was, remember Dale's comment. That was one of the last ones that he thought you kind of sounded like the little simp boy in the audio. And you're getting better. We got you a little EQ today. You should sound better. Everybody can let us know. Does Gene sound better today?
Yeah. And if you don't want to listen to what Gene sounds like in the on purpose crappy sounding way that Darren makes me sound, listen to Just Two Good Old Boys podcast where
tell me where Gene sounds better, which show he sounds better on. Would love to hear that.
Do that.
Bemrose also says that he does not eat sushi directly into his microphone, so that could be causing a sound difference. This is true. We have to look at every...
What good is the microphone big ball on the front if it's not in order to keep the sushi out of it?
If it's not a sushi catcher?
It's a sushi filter.
That's why you have to change those every now and then.
I do. I buy a new one every 6 months.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Do you not?
I have not been using the big ball on the RE20. I'm using the included one here on the Shure, which is the little boy. And I bought another one of the thin ones from the Shure because for a while I couldn't find mine because I put the big ball on it. And then I couldn't find the thin one again. So I just ordered one, but now I found it. So now I got two. But I try not to eat sushi while podcasting. Sir Truck Driver came in with $5.65. I think that's a monthly, and we appreciate that. And then we have a couple of boostergrams. One just came in during the show from C Brooklyn 112, who I think was also over there in the troll room, who says, I'm boosting early because I can't stay late, which makes sense. You boost when you can. We appreciate that. 10,000 Satoshis. And then our buddy CSB, he came in with 8,015 Satoshis and just says, visit www.csb.lol Kurwa Mak, which is Polish, and I know I don't speak Polish.
You are Polish.
Kurwa Mak, but I don't speak Polish. I barely speak English. Kurwa Mak. I guess I have to look that up. I'm sure that's the beauty now of all these things is that you can just punch that into a website somewhere.
Kurwa with a K?
Yeah. Kurwa and then MAC with the emphasis on the C.
Yeah, it's I think Kurwa is slut or whore. I don't know.
It was thank you, I believe, is what it was.
Yeah.
DigiGuru says that might be because Darren O has no engineering, real technology background. Sir Gene and Sir Bemrose have those skills. Do they? Do they really?
They do.
Do they? Do we see any proof of this? Are either one of you gainfully employed at the moment?
Hey, that is proof right there.
That's not proof at all.
That's total proof right there.
It is not proof. I learned HTML, baby. That was a language.
Yeah, that's not a language.
It
is a language.
I learned BASIC back in 1982, was it? Maybe 82. That sounds about right. I learned Perl and Python, and I mean, I wouldn't say I'm proficient.
You never used any of this, did you? Though
no. I mean, I actually took a class in COBOL in high school, so I mean, there's
I know. Oh, in high school even.
Yeah, well, see, in high school,
fancy. They didn't have COBOL in my high school.
It was they didn't in mine either, but the class that was required, they had their whole. I think it was all Macintosh back then in the computer lab at beautiful Brother Rice High School. They had a class in BASIC, but I had already taken BASIC. I was basically BASIC.
You were so basic, you couldn't do BASIC anymore. Yeah,
when it came down to like, well, you have to do this. I talked to the brother that was teaching the class, and that means he was a religious man, not a brother. And
he's a black dude,
right? We had some black dudes, but not this brother. This brother was not a brother.
So he just spoke like one.
No, he was an old white guy.
Oh,
but
why are you calling him brother? Are you related to him?
No, because he was a Christian brother.
He was a brother in Christ.
Yes. Christian brother.
Is that a thing?
Yes, it's a thing. And I'm like, well, I've already taken this. So there was 2 guys in the class that we had the knowledge, and he just gave us a test like on day 1 and then was just like, yeah, here, go learn this. And you guys can do whatever you want during class. So we would sit there, and most of the time we were playing games and doing shit. We would just sit on computers that were not facing the,
nice.
But it's like, well, you already passed. You got an A in the class because you already know everything he's going to teach for the basic stuff. And that was where it's like, well, here, COBOL, here's a book. And then it wasn't Python. It had to be Perl. So it had to be Perl, I think, and COBOL back then.
Perl. How old is Perl? It's not that old, is it?
I think so.
The
Perl programming language.
COBOL was around forever.
When did Perl exist? It first appeared in 1987. So this, was probably right about at the beginning. Have done it. Well, that was in 87. So unless it was like the guy was right on top of the. Yeah,
that seems a little.
Would have been quick. So maybe it wasn't Perl. Maybe it was. I remember
Python. The first time I used Perl was probably in 1990.
When did well, see, Python didn't appear either. I thought it was one of the P languages. Maybe I'm just totally confused.
Yeah.
DigiGuru says, can you wire up a digital electronic circuit? Well, Bemrose can't. So, I mean,
I totally can't. Well, I used to be able to.
Well, let's find out.
That is one of the things I took in high school was electronics.
You blow anything up?
Oh, lots of stuff. Capacitors mostly, but it was great. Kind of like you said, you could do anything. So the guy that taught that class, I fixed his computer for him. And so I basically could just do anything in that class. I had an open, fuck around pass. So that class, I remember I'd usually bring a 6-pack of cold soda with me.
Was it Balls at the time? Were you drinking some Balls?
No, it was not Balls. If it would have been anything, it would have been Jolt. But no, Jolt was hard to find. So I was just drinking Coke. And I was you're going to find this amazingly hard to believe. I was the only kid in my high school, to have a laptop.
Damn. You were entitled.
I was wasn't entitled. I was nerdy, I would say. But this was in the day where laptops were, like 10 pounds. And the battery lasted a good 30 minutes. But
yeah, the good old days. You had to be plugged in.
Yeah, I had my own laptop, and it was pretty cool. No, it was fun. I like electronics. I just I was originally, both my parents are electronics engineers, so I was supposed to become one of those.
But then you went down a wayward path.
I did. Little thing called philosophy got in the way.
That's a lifelong pursuit there.
After I took that first philosophy class and aced it, I was like, holy shit, you mean they have a class where bullshitting is actually something you get graded on? Oh, yeah. I'm all in.
I remember
Fuck engineering, man. I'm doing this shit instead.
I remember getting a good grade for handing in a blank paper in one of those classes in college.
Yeah.
Like it all depends. You have to understand the you have to understand the assignment. And CSB says it's Corva Mach, which is what that allegedly sounds like. And I'll practice CSB. I'll practice my Polish accent.
Or he could just send a clip that we could play.
Dallin, why you talk to Russian apologists?
Oh, look at that. He already got a clip.
Corva Mach, why you not listen to me? I tell you, Dallin.
In that same voice, say, if you support Russia, you're going to hell.
If you support Russia, you're going to hell. Dallin, you go to hell.
That's a clip right there.
Right there? It could be just a cold opener, right? It's beautiful.
I think that is a great cold opener right there.
You haven't heard better in a long, long time. Except Larry over on the other show I do called Planet Rage.
Yeah.
Where the cold
Subsonic show
was, if you're going to say this in the show, I'm going to pull it as an ISO, except now I'm not going to use it as an ISO in this show because then it would be repetitive. But Larry's, he was like, that's just a dick in the ass. And I'm like, okay, that's the way I want to start the show. I mean, not actually.
Is that what that feels like, Larry? Please tell us more.
Yes, please explain.
Uh-huh.
It's you never know what you're going to hear on your favorite podcast. If you enjoy them, though, we appreciate when you support them, including everybody today from CSB to C. Brooklyn to Sir Truck Driver, Jay Codicini, Sir Lee Mofo, and of course, Dale from the wonderful land down under. If you want to be a supporter of the show, just go over to unrelenting.show/donate. All of the information is there. And at some point, Gene and I will have to have a big pizza party / steakum thing here in Chicago. And then I'll
it
have
started
to pay
off
you.
as a steak, but by the time it happens, it might be a macaroni and cheese dinner.
Yeah. It all depends what it'll pay for. I have to go through. I'm going to try this weekend to do the accounting on the podcast. I don't like to do that every few months. And because now that Dale's been donating, there's money that needs to go to you.
Yeah, he might be getting damn close to hitting the magic number.
I know, which is unfortunate because then there's
$33 million.
Taxes.
That's the magic number.
It's $3 million. Yes.
Uh-huh. $1 million.
I mean, I've got 1 million Satoshis, but that's not quite the same thing. Dollars are preferred.
Satoshis. Well, I've got rubles. I've got 1 million rubles.
Oh, well, you bought those when the Russian currency,
when they were worth half as much.
I talked about this the other day too. I think on Planet Rage, but I was on the bike because, I'm trying to get healthy. And one of the things that it spit out at me,
dude, if you end up dying of a heart attack while you're biking,
that's ironic.
I'm going to laugh my ass off. I'm just telling you right now. While
you're
still alive.
I told you it was going to happen, you son of a bitch. And one of the YouTube videos that it spit out at me was a dude in Russia who was walking through the largest mall in Moscow, which I believe is the largest mall in Mother Russia. And my God, things look good.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but every video I've watched, their stores look better than ours.
The mall is filled, which is not what you get here. There's most of the anchor stores are gone here. They're desperate for people to come in and put pickleball courts in or something. And the whole commercialism is dying, where in Russia, a few things I noticed. One, the mall was filled. There was a bunch of people. There was a lot of people shopping. The stores that he was pointing out that, well, this used to be a Starbucks. Well, now it's just Stars. This used to be KFC. Now it's this. This used to be, and they're just shortening
now
the names.
Just FC.
Right. And it's the same stuff. It's the same merchandise. It's just got a different name.
Yep.
And the thing that I took from this, because I watched the whole 25 minutes or whatever this dude walking through, there are very few obese people in Russia.
Oh, yeah. No, they all shipped out to the U.S.
And the women, Russia seems like the place you want to go. If you're looking for women, the mall in Moscow, highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Like 2 years ago, I would have said Ukraine because Ukrainian chicks are really hot. I've dated a few of them. And in fact, I need to figure out what one of them is. I had a dream about her. But there are way fewer fat people in Russia. It's not like they don't exist, but there's very few of them. Well, much like in Europe in general.
There were a lot fewer here when we were growing up.
There were a lot fewer. No, you're absolutely right.
And what changed? Because we were talking about this, and it's like, well, we had McDonald's then, we had KFC, we had fast food. So what has changed?
I think a few things. One is, while I maybe ate at McDonald's when I had a job at McDonald's, when I worked there when I was 14 years old, I don't think that people really ate at McDonald's every day the way a lot of people eat at McDonald's every day now.
No, you're right. That was it was a special thing. If you were lucky, it
was a once in a while. Oh, we don't feel like cooking. Let's just stop by McDonald's and grab some food, Or you might stop at McDonald's, but the only thing you're going to have is the ice cream. Get a twist cone.
Yeah, if the ice cream machine's working.
They used to. They never broke down back when I was working there. Like, we never had issues with.
Well, you were on top of the ice cream. You knew you wanted to keep that thing going. You were You were testing it like every 5 minutes, taking a little bit out just to make sure the quality was where it should be.
No. They just worked. That stuff worked. The machine's been around forever. One of my friends worked at a. In fact, here I'll let this slip. So the wallets. My involvement with the wallets, the metal wallets. I've talked about those before.
I don't know if you have.
No, I'm pretty sure I have. Well, people that know me have all seen the metal wallet. So I've got a metal wallet, and I was in fact, I think the first investor in the company that made them. And that company was started by a buddy of mine that I knew back from like when I was a teenager.
You worked at McDonald's together?
Oh, he worked at a yogurt place. And so I used to stop by there and he'd give me free yogurt.
Well, now I understand why you were friends. Gene's like, I really love the yogurt.
It was a mutual relationship. I worked at a pizza place. I worked at Domino's, and then he'd get free pizzas. But
so you get together after your shifts with a bag of pizza and a bag of...
I'll trade some frozen yogurt for some pizza.
Nice.
We were, and the way that to the best of my recollection, now this is like 80 years ago, but the way our friendship started was in an argument around Star Trek.
As they will often do.
But obviously the original 1960s Star Trek.
You don't even know what the Kobayashi Maru is, you fool.
How do you not even know the Kobayashi Maru? I've solved that multiple times.
You got to cheat.
That's right. Cheating is a valid means of, and there are plenty of games today, like EVE Online, for example, is a game that takes to heart the concept that cheating is a legitimate part of gameplay.
As well it should be. It's a loophole. If you could, that's why NASCAR used to be great.
Mm-hmm.
When it was get away with whatever you can, stay within the rules, but bend them.
Yep.
Bend them big time.
It said not to break the rules, didn't say anything about bending the rules.
Exactly. You stay in that little window, which there's at least a question. Is this legal or not?
And now you can check off the other bingo box for talking about video games.
Video games. Oh, that's always the favorite one. Where can we buy some spaceships from Gene? That's the question I get all the time. Just walking down the street, people run into me and they're like, hey.
Well, you should put that link right into the podcast. I've sent you that before. It's
in every show we've done for a long time.
Awesome. Well, I don't listen to it, so I wouldn't know. But yeah,
you're banned. Great. You're banned from the Unrelenting.show website.
Oh, no. Crap. Now I've done it.
The bans keep on continuing. They're growing.
Yes, it's funny how it's the same person issuing all the bans every time.
Yeah. Nothing to see here. But it's like if you want to go and you want to have a nice shopping experience, Moscow's the place to go. This mall had like a force.
You're going to get a nasty, nasty message from CSB about how
I don't think he hates the Russian
promoting
people.
Russia.
This was like, it was like a 4-story aquarium, like a round
Polish,
aquarium.
Of course he hates the Russian people. That's how it works.
I don't know. You don't be hateful. Everybody love each other.
Mm-hmm.
Peace, love, and understanding. What's so funny about that?
I don't know.
Exactly. You got anything else? Any teasers for what's coming up for the rest of this weekend here going into next week?
No, just going to play some video games. Playing a lot of Elite Dangerous.
Have you ordered all your food?
I need to do that right now. Actually, almost out of tea. I only have 2 jars of tea left.
I have started buying some of the. It's the like just flavored tea, so it's not a black tea or green tea. It's literally like a
peach.
But this is like watermelon. There's like a watermelon bed.
That's not even tea.
And then there's like a strawberry. What I do is I throw one of these bags into the quart, whatever the container is that I throw the 5 PG Tips black tea bags into. I throw one of these in and you get this very delightful flavored tea without having to worry about it.
Why don't you just enjoy the flavor of the tea?
I like it, but my wife hates the taste of iced tea. So there's that.
Well, she can make her own tea then.
You want get your own damn container.
Yeah, exactly.
Why you got to be fancy? Why do you want flavor?
A quart is barely enough for you.
I know. In a day, I could go through that easily.
I go through. So I consume on average about a gallon of tea a day.
It explains how you can stay up all night playing those video
generally,
games.
It's usually about 4 liters. Well, yeah, I don't stay up all night, but occasionally will stay up late for sure.
Explains why your dating life is in such disarray.
Yeah, I mean, my dating life currently is non-existent, so I don't know about disarray. It's just not there.
If anybody wants to date Gene, he has no security clearance, though. Let's just be clear.
That's right. No security clearance, hence I'm not getting all the hot Asian chicks.
Dare to dream.
Mm-hmm.